Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to the Woodsmith Shop. You know, building a beautiful piece of furniture like this green and green style table takes a whole collection of woodworking tips, tools, and techniques. Well, in today's show, we'll begin our new series, The Details of Craftsmanship, an in-depth look at the woodworking techniques it takes to build beautiful furniture like this table. We'll start down at the bottom where the stretchers are joined to the legs using a through mortise and tenon joint. First, we'll lay out the through mortise, and then we'll rough it out over at the drill press. Well, next we'll take an in-depth look at one of our favorite shop projects, this outfeed support table for the table saw. And you'll see step by step how to use contact cement to apply the plastic laminate top. And later in our Pages in Action segment, we'll fire up this shop-built mortising machine. Well, it's all on today's show, so stick around for the Woodsmith Shop. You know, when I was first starting out in woodworking, I wanted to build a roll-top desk. Well, I realized that it took a whole collection of woodworking techniques. Now, over the years, many years, I learned all those techniques, and now I could use them to build a project like this green and green style hall table.
Now, there's a lot of great techniques that go into this table, but that's true for any project. So once you learn the techniques, you can build just about anything.
Which leads us to our new series called Details of Craftsmanship, where we'll take a detailed, in-depth, step-by-step look at all the techniques that you need to build a project like this hall table. So let's get started. Building this green and green style table starts down here at the bottom, where we'll join the stretcher to the legs with a through mortise and tenon joint. That starts with the through mortise that goes all the way from one edge to the other edge of the legs. Then we'll make a very long tenon to fit all the way through that mortise.
Now, to make the mortise, the layout becomes pretty critical because it needs to be done on both edges of all the legs.
And since it needs to be so precise, I used a combination square and a utility knife to mark a cut line right on the edge of the mortise.
And you'll need to repeat that process on the other edges since it's a through mortise.
Right, so I flip the pieces over, use the combination square to mark other cut lines on that side, and then transfer those marks to the other legs. Then I can rough out the mortise, and I'll do that over at the drill press. Well, after marking out the position of the mortises, the two at the top and then this long one down here at the bottom, you could grab a chisel and a mallet and start chopping out these mortises. But I find it's a lot easier to come over here to the drill press and use a drill bit to hog out most of the material. Now, you have a couple of choices when you're using the drill bit at the drill press. Most woodworkers start out with a set of twist bits. Now, this is a fairly common bit. It has a fairly shallow cutting angle and sort of a point on the end. It's best if you use a pilot hole of some sort. You can either tap one in or you can actually drill a pilot hole because the twist bit does tend to follow a hole fairly well and you can drill all the way through. What a twist bit doesn't do well is drill overlapping holes that you need to hog out most of the material in the mortise. It tends to fall back and slip back into the previous hole, and the bit will actually bend, or it'll try and force your material, your leg in this case, over to make that cut. So I prefer to use another kind of bit, which is a Forstner bit. Now, this has a point on the end, lifters, and then the outside rim is a cutting edge. So with this bit, the cutting edge, the rim, actually guides the outside part of the bit, and it goes down to make the holes, but it's easy to make overlapping holes because of the rims on the Forstner bit. Now, one of the problems with a Forstner bit is it doesn't clear chips out very well, particularly when you're using, say, a 1/4 of an inch bit. It gets clogged up and you have to release the bit fairly often or all the chips get clogged up in there and can actually start burning. So the third type of bit is called a brad point bit. It has a long brad point in the center of the bit, and then spurs out on the edge that help cut a nice smooth rim around the hole. Now this center brad point actually guides the bit down into the hole, and it does make good overlapping holes to clean out most of the material. It's also designed, similar to a twist bit, to clear out chips fairly efficiently, so you can make these overlapping holes without doing a lot of clearing out as you would with a Forstner bit. So my bit of choice for making overlapping holes for clearing out a mortise would be a brad point bit.